Rolling?
We're rolling.
All right.
Bracelets.
So today we're going to do an actual finished bracelet, start to finish, right? And part of my idea with this is that we're going to like go through starting with a sketch and going through some various finishing techniques, texturing techniques. And then also all a part of that is we're talking order of operations. So like when working with the press, it's like, well, do we want to form the bracelet first and then do the techniques to it? Or do we want to do everything flat and then form it up last? And anyways, that's going to be all part of it. So you brought us some sketches today.
Yep.
So yeah, this is cool. And I think like it's so critical. I know I've told you this already and probably sick of it, but like starting with sketches, there's a magic to it. What I found with sketches is that there's these subtle proportion things that sketches do that if you're going directly to CAD, you don't do. And I've just experienced this in like a lot of my designs where I'll be like, oh, I got a good vision in my head. I'll just go right to CAD. And then what I find is I don't like the rectangle that I'm drawing or something, whatever, is like a little bit, like the proportions aren't right.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is it's like in CAD, it's easy to snap to a grid or it's easy to use like to just input like 1 inch, you know? And when I sketch stuff out by hand, it's like, oh, okay, I actually really want this piece to be like 1 in 80 thousandths wide, by 0.562 inches long, whatever, just like the random numbers. Those proportions are really critical. So awesome. You got a bunch of cool sketches here, and we're going to be working on this one here, which I went ahead and blew up. So what's your idea with this design? Like what, texture?
Yeah. So I kind of thought that the arms and hands would be a little more polished. Maybe this area here will add some sort of texturing. What's it called? Is it like bead blasting?
Bead blasting is one of the textures.
Okay.
Yeah,
Which
we'll go
is something
through.
we could do.
We can do. There's patinas in brass.
Yeah.
And that's another thing.
Okay.
We can do, and there's ways that we can selectively finish.
We don't have to. That was just
and it could develop too.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I also like to kind of rush into making something because then all of a sudden the vision I have in my head, when I get it in 3 dimensions, right? Like all of a sudden is different. Or the design all of a sudden is like, and I think this is designed really well because on a bracelet, you're going to be able to see this.
Yeah.
If you had too much design out towards the edge,
it's kind of what I was.
You lose that design. And that was, you worked through just kind of some prototyping and ideas in 3 dimensions. And that's like, it's important to do both steps, to work from the sketch, but then also to do some really quick 3-dimensional things. Things change a ton. I would think like just me looking at this, we want like some good bold lines to kind of go with this style. We want a pretty bold texture to really give us good contrast. I think like the feel of the design, we want it to really pop. It's not a like super subtle thing,
Agreed.
But I mean, I really like the style. I think it has a lot of potential. We're probably gonna incorporate the laser for doing some of the engraving. Like this is something that I would probably hand engrave, bright cut. I think
Once
would be especially
do that.
like bright cutting parts of the eye or like kind of the sunburst around the eye would be awesome.
Totally.
And that's something I could maybe like do a little bit, or in the future, right? You'll like hopefully get to be learning engraving as well.
Yeah.
But for now, we'll incorporate some of the laser. Dark, deep texture here. And then my feeling was maybe do like kind of a satin finish, like a really simple,
Cool. I like
clean, easy satin finish. And then maybe go in and do selective like polishing on the eye or something like that. So there's some little things like that. We're going to go, so yeah, we got some brass. We're going to sit down. I'm going to walk you through just like kind of a bunch of different finishing techniques and a little bit of masking techniques. So, and then we'll come back once we decide exactly on what we're doing. Then we'll figure out our order of operations. So we'll use this just for doing some test samples.
Awesome.
All right.
Sounds good.
Let's roll. I've got 2 little carbide chasing tools that I made. One is just a dead flat round. And this, I'm going to hold at an angle, and it's going to go in and make these little, like, almost half-moon dents.
Okay.
This is a good background texture in a lot of stuff. And there's a little bit, I want to kind of be random and be moving around. I don't want to follow too much of a pattern because I'll see that in here. But it's a really good deep texture, and I think something like this might be what we want to use for the deep texture in your bracelet.
It's almost like a little mini jackhammer or something.
Yeah, basically.
Cool.
Little hammer. Now this is a carbide. It's an old carbide burr that I ground and flattened with a diamond wheel.
Gotcha.
What's nice, the carbide is really hard, so when it's hammering into the brass or titanium or whatever, it's not going to round out like a steel would. Yeah, you got that. So it's nice matte texture. It's going to hold color really well if we patina it. It should give us some good contrast. And I mean, I kind of like stuff like this because it's long wearing. This next one, I'm going to do kind of the same thing. This is just a little rounded burr. So it's just it's a tiny little ball peen hammer. So this is going to give us round dimples versus that like half moon. It's really similar, but just subtly different. So it's time consuming. It's going to take a while to do.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
But just subtly different. And we can make different size gravers. So I have some other ones that are much bigger and much more rounded.
Cool.
That are going to give you more of like a hammer texture. Okay, hammers. Now we could go into this and we could talk about all of the various types of hammers for texturing. We can take old crappy hammers and like make texturing hammers ourselves with all sorts of various things. We can also use chasing tools or texturing tools where we actually make little hand stamps to impart the texture, hammering the stamp down into it. So it's really endless. We're going to keep it pretty simple right now. I'll show you a couple that I've used in the past. First of all, it's one of the earlier hammers I bought. It's a Fretz crosspeen hammer. It's a really tight, small radius crosspeen.
Cool.
So this is really nice. It's a little tighter on this side than this side, and I've kind of like worked and redressed these heads and polished them over time to just kind of really fine tune them. But this generally works best to do the texturing in a linear, like to keep it all the same direction. I've found personally, but I'm gonna go in and I want to have like kind of just repetitive and just go. It's a little trickier to get the texture in exact areas, right? So if I want to texture a big broad area where I don't have any like lines to stay away from, this works really well. That's where the smaller pieces or the smaller tools work better to be more precise. Big forging hammer. This is just gonna give.
Got it. Yeah.
Really a much bigger, broader texture. Issue with this is it actually is gonna like reshape my metal a little bit. I'm actually forging out the metal sheet
it
a little bit. Here's just a little ball peen hammer. This is like kind of a very traditional hammer texture.
Oh, cool, yeah.
Just little rounds. Now, I'm just going with a random pattern. Some people will get really good and can do like much specific, nicer, almost patterns with it. Cool.
Super cool. Yeah.
There is that. Okay, so this is a little cylinder burr. If you don't have a hammer handpiece, or if you don't have like an engraving system, but you want to do a kind of similar texture, a cylinder burr, right? It's round, has a flat end, held at like a 45-degree angle is going to give me a little like half moon shape. So you can go in and just sort of do these random cuts.
Nice.
Little bit tedious, but yeah, it's kind of a little bright, reflective cut. This is just a little diamond burr. So it's a super cheap little diamond sintered burr. And this, you can kind of just go and it gives you good control. It's pretty easy. It's not big cutting teeth, so it doesn't usually want to like pull away. And then it gives you this kind of nice, it's bright sort of matte texture. This we have a coarser diamond burr. Same thing, it's just bigger little diamonds on this piece, so it's going to give us a little coarser texture.
Cool.
Super subtle. And the last one we have here is just a round ball burr. That was that one right here. What you're seeing here with the burrs is just the tiniest small fraction of what you can do texturing with a flex shaft. And then there's all these different burrs, and then you can also you can take a burr and you can use a diamond wheel to like trim it down. And then what angle you hold it at, how you kind of attack the metal can totally change what that texture looks like. So it's a fun thing to spend some time and to play around. You know, I can give you a whole bunch of different burrs and you can sit down and just like see what the different textures, you know, like look like and what you like. And then also what is easy to repeat and has good control, has good, you know, that might look good on a big surface or some might look better on a small surface. You know, there's different textures for everything. This whole texturing thing is pretty endless. These are just, again, some of the ones that I use. So I have a 3M micro bristle brush in the 6-inch diameter, and I believe this is the coarsest grit that we can do with this. So this will give you just a really, really aggressive satin brushed finish, I guess would technically be what I would call it.
Cool.
So it's kind of scary, and this works well for big, broad areas.
Okay.
So, you know, and it does matter how you sort of like angle and direction, right? If I get sort of random, all of a sudden get a little different. You know, or I can.
Oh, nice, yeah.
Works great. It's good for big, broad areas. It's a really aggressive satin finish. This is one that's really cool. I will have to look up and we'll put in the description exactly what this is. It's a little wire wheel, and it gives you this really nice kind of micro hammer texture. Cool.
Guessing that's when you don't want your fingers to hit so much.
It's not horrible.
Okay.
Yeah, you do want to wear eye protection though, because the little wires will fling off if you're too aggressive with it, and just over time. So, yeah, and there's a little trick to sort of getting a really nice texture with this. And I would probably sit down and spend some time playing with different textures. Cool.
Make it a little closer. There we go.
Again, pretty subtle texture. Can get really nice and even. Probably if we anneal this brass, this is pretty hard right now, we'll get a little better texture out of it.
Okay.
This sheet is really nice and clean. I'm not going to get into the full steps of doing like really nice polishes. That's much more extensive. But just to get a nice like bright pre-polished look for what we're doing, I've just got a rouge wheel on and just, yeah, well, it's kind of funky, but just some straight red rouge.
Ooh, nice, yeah.
So,
doesn't want to focus on that. It's too shiny. There we go. Oh, nice, yeah.
So
oh, dang, that's reflective.
That's a good pre-polish. Now, mind you, without going through all the proper steps of polishing, if I have any scratches, deep scratches or stuff, this isn't going to remove it. It'll kind of highlight it. So, but, you know, this does give you, a nicer reflectivity. And this is my most utilized satin finish.
Yeah,
Is the 3M micro bristle brush in yellow, the 3-inch diameter wheel. It's fairly gentle while
Yeah.
also being a pretty nice
Satin.
even finish, good satin finish. And it's really nice for if you have sheet that's beat up or if you just kind of want a good, simple surface. This is kind of my go-to for a lot of pieces.
Cool.
I could talk for a while about different satin finishes and how to get different degrees, qualities of them. Really quick, simple, easy, and fairly aggressive is red Scotch Brite, and just by hand, you can go in and do a nice directional satin. It all depends too on the design and how we're working with it. So let's go do one more. We're gonna do one more. We're gonna go do bead blasting, glass bead blasting. I have a cheap little blasting cabinet out back. And I'm gonna mask parts of it. So we'll talk a little bit more about masking when we get to your final design. Cool. But for now I'm using this 3M anodizing tape, or sometimes I'll use packing tape. It really depends on the level and like detail of the masking that we want to do. Just really simple masking there.
Cool.
And this I've tested. I've done this with glass bead blasting and it works great.
Awesome.
So yeah, let's go hit this in the cabinet. We've got just my cheap Harbor Freight blasting cabinet out here, and this I think has medium grade glass beads from Rio Grande in here. And I don't use this all that much, so this cheap setup works pretty well for me.
Sweet.
Yeah, if you want to come on, zoom in on here. All right, so yeah, we got this gun in here. Got my piece in here, and
oh wow.
if we take the mask off, we can really see. Just turn this off.
Yeah, normal bit.
Yeah.
Nice.
So this is really nice. Masking and bead blasting is really good for selective finishing of areas.
Cool.
Gives you a very nice even finish, which is good as well. And it does mark and show patina in different ways. So there's some downsides to it as well. But it is a really good technique. So here we've got a very rough general array of a bunch of different textures. Mm-hmm. From very subtle satin finishes to much more aggressive hammer textures, etc. And again, there's so many more than this. This is just a really basic level. But let's go ahead and look at the design and sort of decide which textures we want to use and then how we are going to achieve that. All right, so thinking about your design now, we won't worry too much about order of operations right now, but what are the textures you like the best and you feel like will work best with your design?
I feel like some sort of the manual texturing would work best.
Those are like the diamond ones, or then the
Yeah.
hammer handpiece engraver.
Yeah, probably I feel like a actual hammer would be tougher to get quite as accurate as we want. So
Yeah.
maybe one of the auto ball. I kind of like this one a little bit.
Okay. That's a good one, a pretty deep texture that can hold some color in it, I think makes sense. Yeah, so thinking about the textures here, right? The hammer, of course, is great for big, bold, deep textures.
Yeah, which I'd like, but
they're nice. They're harder to control.
yeah. And since I don't have as much experience with that.
Yeah, as a beginner for sure.
Yeah.
And even then, there's going to be errant hammer
Yeah.
strikes occasionally, unless you're an absolute master. Again, yeah, I'm not, but
the bead blasting would be cool. I guess how well does the bead blasting texture last? Is kind of the question.
It's okay. It's not awesome. I think for selective areas, it works pretty nicely. Bead blasting a whole piece, it starts to show scratches really well,
That's
like
kinda what
really
I was
easily,
thinking.
and that's
Yeah,
that's the big problem I have with
I'm
it.
a big doofus, so I'm gonna be bumping into stuff, you know, and scratching.
Yeah,
so,
and bracelets also. So that's one thing we haven't really talked about. But like
Yeah.
different pieces of jewelry have different levels of wear and abrasion.
Yeah.
And like a bracelet that you're gonna be wearing, it's gonna get a lot of abuse. Rings get even more.
Yeah.
Earrings and pendants, like that's where we can play with much finer, more subtle things because they really don't get much abrasion. So or much wear in
It's a
that
good thing
same
to think
way.
about.
Things like belt buckles like get a fair amount of abuse. So yeah, good to think about what we're doing, what the finished piece is. I would say we could probably do a fair amount of finishing here, but we're gonna say that like these 4 areas that you have drawn on textured, I think
Yeah.
that would be really good with either like the flex shaft, one of the burrs, like the cylinder burr, or the hammer handpiece is gonna be good for those areas. It's gonna be
Yeah.
pretty long lasting because it's fairly deep and
That's
it's
kind of what I'm thinking.
pretty
I sorta
easy to
like
control.
the texture too. Yeah.
So, and then what I think we could utilize is we could do the other areas in like kind of a pre-polish.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then we could use the diamond the diamond little wheels on the flex shaft to go in and maybe do like these parts, like these like curtains you're pulling back, or parts of the eye, something like that.
Yeah, I'd like that actually.
There's a little direction to this, so
Yep.
you can actually like control like the
Totally.
light, and so I think that could be really cool. One of the only other thoughts I had too is we could bead blast like the arms here and the hands.
Okay.
So we could tape that off and cut it and bead blast it. That would be almost one of the last steps we would want to do. Bead blasting is usually pretty close to one of the final steps. So looking at this from an overall project, we've got our blanks already cut out here. So we're gonna want to next go ahead and do some nice design, little like slightly rounded ends, and finish all these edges, get them all nice and cleaned up, and then maybe give this just a little bit of a pre-polish.
Cool.
Once it's in that state, we're gonna laser engrave our design on it today. Total cheating.
Awesome.
You're lucky to,
Hey,
come in, we got the laser, might as well use it. That's gonna give us some nice deep lines here. And then we can then go in and start doing the texturing and then the final either bead blasting or diamond finishing on that. Now, then the question is when do we form this? Like what is the ideal part of the stage to actually form this into a bracelet?
Kind of last, right?
That's the way I've always worked.
Yeah.
Like I would, do a lot of stuff. I would anodize these titanium bracelets. I'd brush the surfaces and then anodize them. In this case, I masked off part and I brushed this to give the two-tone.
Yeah.
And then I used good fresh urethane and like I polished my bracelet former and I like formed this up and was done.
Cool.
And I think that it's the beauty of the press that we can do that. So I would say, like that would probably be the very last thing we're probably gonna do is form it up. Now, when we're masking off really complicated things, it's tough to do it when it's formed, especially if it has an aggressive anti-clastic or synclastic, because that tape doesn't want to lay down. So if it's dead flat, we can put tape over the whole thing and cut out our design really accurately.
Cool.
And then form it up. So I think that's probably the step to go. So yeah, let's go ahead and now one more thing I want to mention is your finish starts with your raw material. So it's always important to think about and to take care when processing material, when cutting it up. If we get kind of careless with it and we're sliding it around on our shear, or we're just like throwing this into a drawer with a bunch of other stuff and it's getting dinged and dented, it's gonna make our final finishing really difficult.
Yeah.
So this is pretty nice sheet we had, like 260 alloy brass. It's fairly clean, and so far it's not really that scratched. There's a couple scratches on this side that are subtle. I'm gonna say that'll be the back, and we'll give the inside of the cuff a nice satin finish.
Cool.
That should pretty much take care of that. But as we're laying out our design and doing all this finishing work, we just really want to take care to preserve this surface in its state as much as we possibly
sense,
can.
yeah.
And yeah, because it's one little like scratch or dent, and all of a sudden we got to do
Messed up.
tons of work to
Yeah,
get
to
rid
get
of
rid of
that. And if say we laser engrave the lines, and then we have to go regrind it, all of a sudden those lines are getting kind of muddy,
Yeah.
and just everything gets kind of screwed up. So yeah, it's always important to think about with finishing is preserving the finish as much as we can from the start.
Cool.
All right.
Perfect. All right, so we're jumping ahead a little bit here. I went ahead and did a high polish on the exterior and a yellow Scotch-Brite on the inside of the bracelet. And then I also did high polishing on the edges and a little bit of Scotch-Briting to touch it up. And now we're about to laser my initials and the metal alloy label on the inside of the brush. As I said, we're about to do the logo here. Peter and I set it up so that it's centered, and we're gonna go ahead and laser it. Let's see how it goes. I can just cut out the audio probably.
You can always put your phone inside there and get some sick footy.
That
We'll do
actually
that for
would
the
be
final.
kind of cool.
Yeah. I'm gonna call this guy.
There we go. Gonna clean it up. Yeah, we got sort of that high polish on one side, and then the laser engraving and the yellow Scotch-Brite wheel, 3-inch diameter on the back side. Let's go ahead and see how this logo turned out. There we go, nice. .260 alloy brass and my initials. Heyo. Sweet. And then, like as I said, that high polish finish, you can even see the phone reflection there. Pretty cool. And now we're gonna go ahead and figure out the laser engraving for this side, for the design, and get that lasered in. Working on engraving. Doing just the iris of this eye here. Cool. Bam! Sort of see the detail there. There we go. Here we're seeing Peter doing some accurate X-Acto work.
Scalpel work, excuse me?
Scalpel work. Doing some surgery over here. Preserving the sanctity of the polish.
Must not lose the polish. Really just want to make sure you're actually cutting, and you're not like mushing the paper around.
That makes sense.
And like when you I'm like having to cut. I don't know, like I can't like drag away from a corner that's already cut.
Totally.
I have to like join the cut so
Yeah.
it's the right spots. Okay, this side should be done now. I always do this pretty nice and slowly.
That way in case you did mush it, it doesn't pull up the whole
Yeah,
thing.
and that way, in case it's not like I didn't cut every little tiny bit.
Nice.
All right. And then I always leave it long on the sides.
Okay.
So I can do that.
Nice.
That helps
Yeah,
a lot.
yeah.
And then give it like a nice burnish. Yeah, using like my dirty t-shirt.
Hey.
Now that's all good there. Now what we can also do here if we want to. Yeah, so now you can do your satin thing. And then you can texture these 4 quadrants.
Cool.
And it's ready to form.
Oh, that beautiful masking work. Here I am doing the satin finish. As Peter was just saying before I started recording here, I want to keep it going in the same direction, so I'm going to work on doing that here. It's crazy how much just this little sheet makes a difference. I mean, that kind of did the job, I feel like. All right, now we are going to do the edge of the curtains here. I think Peter's right. It's just going to look really cool having the curtains be that same texture there. So here we go. Okay. Yeah, I really like that. It's making it pop way more. Oh no. Oh, hit the finger. Son of a gun. First bracelet. First time using something like that. There's one of them. I don't know why I'm talking so quiet as I do this stuff. I shouldn't. Okay, changing the angle for now. So we get consistency here on this thing. No. Likey. Well, this might be hard to see, but we're gonna go ahead and blast this sucker. I'm guessing that's good. We'll see, I guess. Yeah, I mean, it looks pretty blasted to me. I think that's pretty good. It's got like a nice finish. There's a little weird scuff right here, but that's about it, I think. So, we got it bead blasted outside. As you can see here, we got one side peeled already. I saved the rest to show y'all. Let's go ahead and take the rest of that off though. The texture between the two is really nice. don't know if y'all can see that contrast right there. That looks pretty incredible. Do the reveal here. Oh, look at that. Beautiful. Just beautiful. Taped it up too much. Super cool. Man, I love that. 3 textures. So we got the satin on the hand, which is just hand done. And we've got the bead blasted on the sides. And then high polish in the middle here. Still got to take that tape off. Curious if I just keep it for now, but until I'm all finished. All right. So I'll probably have this in a blooper reel at the end, but I started off putting this one in, and I needed to do this one. So we're gonna restart with the correct tool in place. Anti-clastic bracelet former here. Want to start with the big one so that we can fit it all the way around first. Got my big old book of directions. Probably not gonna read through this whole thing right now. Yeah, I got the tool in. Let's get going. Get that loud sip in the mic there. Fantastic. Let's get back at it. Just steam clean the bracelet. Clean the urethane so that we don't get any particulates that scratch or mark up the final piece. Feeding in. It's actually not bad. Here we go. Second part. As Kramer says, don't F this up. The bracelet.
Yeah.
We're done.
So, what do you think?
It was really fun. You know, like, I think at first when we were last standing here, because I was just editing some of the video, so I know this.
Yeah.
When we were last standing here, I was deciding on the different textures and polishes, that was loud, of the bracelet. We ended up, as by this point you'll know, doing bead blasting on the sides of the arm, as opposed to the sort of manual texturing that we talked about. And that was sort of a time saver thing for us because we had already spent extra time laser engraving and a couple other things.
And part of it too is like you were experimenting and like we did some of this. It's easy to experiment on stuff and just make random textures in the area. But then when you're starting to incorporate that into your design, right?
That's a good point.
Like when you're going and you're wanting to do this texture here, it's like, you know, going up to that line, you got to be really careful. And if you go over and into it, man, that really is rough when you got a lot of time into a piece. So that is definitely one thing to think about. And then that's where order of operations comes in play.
I also wasn't I wasn't really liking how any of the textures really worked with the rest of the piece. It was kind of maybe making a little too much noise for me. If we like ended up doing a patina or something, maybe it would have been cool, but...
Yeah, I mean, I think going back to like your original like kind of drawing here, which things are always going to change, and and a lot of times they change for the better. But like thinking about like darker, bolder things, then it's like, oh, okay, well, like we do a different patina there. In theory, we could mask and we could patina this as well in other ways. But yeah, the deeper textures are going to be better for that sort of thing.
Totally. I kind of like how the bead blasting turned out. Like you had said, it might scratch up more. That'll be fun to kind of see how it goes as I wear it.
Yeah, we'll see. And I think that's a good, you know, good thing to make a piece of jewelry. Like you made this, you're gonna wear it. And so you really get to like live with your decisions, look at it and be like, oh, okay, I really like that. Like, you'll catch, you're like, that catches my eye in this nice way. And then, it might be in 2 or 3 weeks, you're like, this kind of thing is sort of bugging me. I mean, I think it turned out awesome. I think it turned out really nice. It has a good voice to it. I mean, it all came together into a finished piece. With the brass, we're going to get some patina happening naturally. We'll just see how it goes for now. Cross that bridge when we get there. But yeah, I mean, I think it's super sharp, and yeah, it's got good voice. I'm excited to see. You learned a lot about a couple different techniques. We were kind of focusing just on the texturing and finishing part for this project. But the engraving and how it all comes together into a 3-dimensional form, I think it's really rad. Anything you would do or looking at this that you're like, this didn't quite fit my vision? Anything, or you're like,
I had it pretty loose when I drew it, so honestly, I think it kind of ended up looking a little cleaner than I thought it was going to. As far as like negative stuff, not necessarily. It'll be. I'm excited. Like, there's nothing that didn't turn out how I wanted. There is other things that I'm excited to play around with in the coming, like,
cool,
stuff that we do.
So. Yeah, I mean, that was going to be the next question, is like, what's next? I think this is really very successful. Taking this, and I think it's always good to, like, take something and kind of keep expanding on it or keep pushing it until you're, like, really bored of it, or you're like, this is awesome, and then you can kind of hang with that for a while. So yeah, what are you thinking next? We've done a fair amount of bracelets, so it'd be like, we can do more bracelets, but I think we'll probably try to do, like, we could do rings, pendants, things through silhouette dies, non-conforming dies.
I'm kind of thinking silhouette die I'm really interested in, just from a, like, difference perspective, because it's so much different than, like, seems to be so much different design-wise maybe than, like, making a bracelet.
Yeah.
Still using the press and still forming metal. With a ring, maybe like some sort of coining or,
cool,
pattern plate or something. Add something a little different into the design.
Pattern plate would be a good thing to do. We can work on, like, making a custom pattern plate, rolling it out. And the forming went well. I mean, I guess that part of it. Like...
Oh yeah, the forming was much easier. And again, I think this is only like my 4th or 5th bracelet that I've formed, but it was definitely, like, repetitions sure does make it quicker. It took me a 1/6 as long as, like, my first bracelet that I formed.
I mean, that was like, that was the first bracelet you formed, and that was 45 minutes or so.
Yeah.
And this was, 7-8 minutes, especially
7-8
minus
minutes.
The filming and stuff.
A lot less time than previously.
And that's just going to continue to get better as you kind of start to develop that fluency. And I always say this with things like bracelet forming and ring forming, things where it's like eye-hand coordination dependent. Some processes we, like, dial everything in, and we go to 4,000 psi, boom, and we get the same piece out of that die every single time. Some things, like this type of forming, it takes repetition, and it takes you screwing up and just spending the time on the press. And I think that's always an important thing to remember. For you guys out there, it's like, don't worry if your first time forming a bracelet just goes
or 3
totally awry. I formed 10 or 12 before I really got something that looked right, And so, like, I went through a lot, and it took me a while. And then it was, literally been hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of bracelets that I've formed since then. To now, and like now I can do it pretty quickly and easily. I still screw up sometimes, I'm not paying attention and doing everything just right. So cool. Well, I think that was a good lesson. Learned a little bit about texturing, order of operations, forming on here, a little bit about masking. And again, there's so much we could get into with all this. we'll keep digging deeper
Yeah,
and deeper
I'm really
as we
excited.
can forever and ever, because there's kind of, I mean, like so much more techniques we can bring into working with the press. So I think that's really cool. That's really exciting. Yeah, we'll see what happens with the next project.
Thank y'all for joining us, and join us on our next journey in hydraulic press and jewelry making.
Cool.
All right.
Thank you all.
Adios.